ready. We got a lot of people here waiting, so let's go. Hello, guys. How are you doing? Happy Friday. It's good to see you. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending where you are in the world. I'm very, very thrilled to be here because today we're going to be working on a very cool project. This is one of the ones that we were talking about on the Discord channel. This week we did something a little bit different. We actually created a little community vote to pick what we were going to be working on. So if you want to be part of this community votes and get a sneak peek of what we might do, again, we might not do this every single project, right? But for this particular one we did, make sure to join the Discord channel. We're going to link the little link in just a second, but let me show you real quick. Let me open this image right here. So this was a suggestion. Oh yeah, the lantern, right? Yeah. So that's the lantern right there. We did this last stream, if you remember. That the video is already here on YouTube in case you want to see how we modeled it and sculpted it. And I 3D printed it. It did took quite a couple of days. It was like 3 days. The first part took like 8 hours, and then the next part took like 22 hours, and then the final part took like 17 hours. It's big. Like if I go towards it, you're gonna see it's like as big as my head, right? Like it's really like a big lantern. And but yeah, it's a cool one. I think it adds to the mood here in the studio, right? So I was happy with it. I'm like, the cool thing is, as you guys know, Elegoo sent us the Neptune 4 last year, and it's thanks to that printer that we were able to print this big space because yeah, we just did it. How did I glue it together? I used a special super glue, and I used plastic welds. Let me show you what those are. Give me 1 second here. There we go. So we're going to talk about this thing in just a second. Let's go here. So plastic weld. So I have this gun right here. Plastic weld gun. This thing. So I bought this for the dragon head and I used it, and it's this very interesting gun, and it has clips on the box. So you place the clip here, you press the button, the clip hits very fast, and then you just literally weld it on top of the plastic stuff, so it melts the plastic and gets embedded into it, and it generates a very strong hold. I got it very cheap, I think, from online. So it's yeah, it's just a plastic welder, and I've been using this to pretty much it's not precisely glue, right? It's literally welding some of the 3D prints that need to be a little bit more resistant. There we go. Okay, so as I was mentioning, guys, on the Discord channel, someone suggested hey, you should do a Marvel Rivals style character. And it's you know what? Yeah, let's try that. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how far we can get with it. And I made a boat here. As you can see, the boat was to pick either Black Bolt, Hope Summers, the Mighty Thor, Jane Foster, or Gore, the Gut Butcher. All of these are very favorite characters of mine from the comics, but I didn't mention which one was my favorite of all time. Some of you might already know, especially those who have been following for a long time. But yeah, the one is, of course, the Mighty Thor. So this is actually my favorite character of all times from Marvel. And this is actually the character that got me into watching or reading comics a couple of years ago. I've never been a huge comic reader. I know Marvel and I know the stories and everything, but I never bought comics until one day I was in a comic book shop here in my hometown, and I saw the cover for this. I was like, who is that? And then the guy told me, oh yeah, they're doing a whole story arc where Thor loses his worthiness, and someone else has to fulfill those oaths or fulfill that role while Thor figures out what he's doing. That's actually a very nice story arc as well, the Unworthy Thor story arc. And I became a huge fan of Jane Foster, of the Mighty Thor. And I have a lot of stuff about her. So I got the action figure, I got the Funko, I got special versions of the comics. So yeah, I can't show you all of the comics that I have from her because they're stored somewhere. But I've been a huge fan. I think they did a good job on the movies. It was not my favorite depiction of her. I think they could have done a lot more stuff, you know. in the movies to really showcase how powerful she is and how like interesting her arc is as a character. But it was fine seeing her on screen. So yeah, today we're gonna be going over the Marvel Rival style. We're gonna be starting with like the base mesh and all that kind of stuff, and yeah, we're gonna start like doing our own version of how Jane Foster would look if she were in the in Marvel Rivals. Let me just get one more thing that I'm missing here. I'm gonna go full screen. Let's see. Yeah, she's the Valkyrie now, and I mean, I like the fact that she's still there, but to me, one of the special things was the fact that she was Thor, right? Like a version of Thor. So it's yeah, I haven't read too many things lately, to be honest. I've been focusing more on creating rather than consuming. Give me 1 second here. There we go. There we go. Awesome. So yeah, the voting already ended, guys. So this was last yesterday. Okay. So as with every single project that we do, one of the very important things that you need to do is look for reference. Look for a lot of reference, as much reference as you can. There's never enough reference. And as I like to tell my students, reference is free, right? Like no one's charging you to build this or like a reference element for your character. And what I wanted to study a little bit about Jane was all of the different parts of her official, or let's say the original design that she had on the comic books, right? Because on the movie, they always add or sort of like dress things up a little bit more. Comics tend to be a lot simpler in the designs, and one of the reasons is the comic artists, they need to draw the character a lot of times throughout the comic book, right? So the more complex the design is, the longer it takes for them to draw them. However, there's still some like examples like this one right here, where there's a little bit more of something going on. And I think that's roughly what we're going to be doing for the design on this one. Because if we look at here, this is another like reference board that we got here. We can see that for the Marvel Rivals game, they definitely went a little bit crazier with the design, like Magic, right? Magic's another very cool character from the Marvel universe. She's like, I don't know, very, very weird, but very interesting. I think, what's her name? Elenia Rasputin or something like that, I think. I don't remember. I don't follow this one as much. But you can see that they went really, really crazy with the spikes, really exaggerated silhouettes, several layers, right? Like there's not, even for this like very basic shorts, there's multiple layers of things going on that makes the design look more interesting. Even with Hela here, you can see how there's again layers. We got the dress, we got the pants, we got this like armor pieces, we got like glowing bits. So one of the things that you need to do, especially when you're doing a fan art or you're trying to mimic a specific style, is study what is going on with the style. How are they approaching the forms? How are they approaching the silhouettes? How are they managing all of the different elements that makes their style pop, right? Even on this one right here, I'm not sure if there's like an invisible woman. No, I don't think so, because that's, I think, the newest release. But even on like very simple designs like this one right here, on this is Penny, right, from Spider-Verse, you can see that they always add layers, 1, 2, 3 layers, right? And they go from primary shapes to secondary shapes to tertiary shapes to sort of like bridge everything together and generate something that looks interesting. Now, the female characters, they're definitely stylized. They're kind of like Barbie style, right? Like they're really pushing the proportions of the characters quite heavily. Smallish head, really long legs, really slim figure. And this is part of the art direction that the teams decide to do. Now, you can also see that they have this very, very interesting like faceted or angled view all the way around. I personally love this. I know there's people who don't love this kind of like style with certain games. I personally love it. Even Fortnite style, it's always very, very interesting. Because one thing that I've realized, especially in the last couple of years, is that games can be way, way more interesting when you don't follow like perfect, like realistic stuff, right? Like realism is amazing and it looks very, very nice. But stylized, I don't know, it's always very unique, right? And then I have a couple of like just female anatomy things over there just to remind myself of certain muscles that I might have missed. So yeah, this is it. This is the, like, let's say the starting point. Whenever you're dealing with any project, you really need to do and take a little bit of time to study what you're going to be doing, because thanks to this study, we're going to be able to get the best result, okay? Rivals models are sort of angular. Yeah, they have this very, again, like faceted look going into their designs, which is very, very interesting. And one thing that I also found very interesting is the silhouette change, right? Like every single character has really intense silhouette changes, even if their design is relatively simple. Like Luna Snow here. Her design is very, very simple. Like, she looks just like a, well, no, I don't want to say basic human, right? But she doesn't have any, like, special armor or anything. It's more about the texture work. But look at how they play with the different, like, material properties, right? So we have cloth, skin, cloth, skin, cloth, skin. And then we have eyes. We have this sort of like a plastic wrap here, or, I don't know, leather or something. So playing with those contrasts is also another very important way to generate that. Look at Mantis here. This one is amazing. I'm not sure if this is a skin or if this is the base skin. But look at her belt. Look at how much it changes the silhouette. So it's not just like a very basic belt that goes like very close to her waist. Oh, where's the... Oh, I thought we were in Krita. Let me copy this real quick. Copy. And paste. Oh. Paste. There we go. So look at the design here. Instead of going for a very simple belt that's just like a square belt and then continues with the silhouette, they decided to go with this very intense looking like branches, right? It gives her this sort of like natural or nature-oriented design, and it allows for something that looks way more complex. And then we have something that's way simpler, like this torso right here. It kind of looks like a corset, right? With those lines right there. And those kind of like movements, right? Going from something complex to something not as complex, or to something that's a little bit more streamlined, allows to generate a very, very interesting design overall. So yeah, the stylizing, as Kabatek is saying right here, it's definitely challenging. It's not simple. And props to all of the amazing concept artists or designers that are working on this game, because they're like literally like destroying it. This is just so cool. This is from Fortnite, right? It's another example. You can see Fortnite is definitely a little bit more streamlined. They don't go as crazy with the silhouettes, and even the proportions of the character are a little bit closer. But I wanted to include that one because Jane, actually, she doesn't have too many things, right? She has the metal like armor, like the breastplate, and then she's got like leggings going pretty much all the way to the top. She's got one sleeve right here and one bracer. On some of the other versions, she's got more stuff, but again, I'm gonna go with like the classic version here. I definitely like the asymmetry. She's got the leather like a skirt. She's got the belt. She's got the boots, winged boots as well, metal boots, and she's got the helmet. Those are, I would say, one of the most important parts of her design, and of course her red cape. Those are all of the things that we are going to be sort of like working with. Now, I was also able, you guys might know this, but I was also able to get a couple of images from people who have been data mining the models. Where is it? Hey, where's the folder? I just created a folder here. There we go. So they've data mined the what's the thing? Some of the files from the game. And for instance, this is the Invisible Woman. And the Invisible Woman has a very interesting situation because she doesn't have any extreme changes in her like a silhouette, right? She's not wearing armor. It's pretty much just like a basic suit. But even on the suit, look at how interesting all of these patterns and lines are that give her the important or the interesting like change in silhouette, right? So when you don't have an intense silhouette, you can always use texture and you can use internal details to add more complexity to the whole thing. And the good thing is, I actually have like a front view and a side view of the model, so we can check the proportions, okay? Proportions are very, very important, especially when you're working on something that's, again, a little bit more stylized. We always need to check how proportions are being dealt with so that we can get the best result on our base mesh. Are we going to texture this? Yes, the idea is to do like the whole pipeline. It's of course not going to be possible to do it in this in just one stream, but we're going to be working on this project. So if we take a look at the distance here that we have with the head, right? We usually go right around there. That's one head of distance, which you can see is roughly 2 squares here inside of Blender. We can start checking where the squares are, and you're going to see that this character is probably going to be a 9-headed character. It's like 9.5. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5 heads. So it's 8.5 heads. This is definitely heroic proportions that we're going to be having right here. And I want you to look now at the proportions of the torso compared to the legs. This is why I was mentioning that it reminds me a lot of like the Barbie proportions. Because if we take a look at the proportions of the torso, you're going to see that this torso is relatively small compared to the distance of the whole legs. Look at that. That's huge, huge, huge. That's a lot of distance right there. But it helps to give this sort of like elongated effect and this sort of like stylized effect for the whole thing, okay? So whenever you're dealing with a project, again, especially if you're trying to copy something, make sure you study the proportions, because studying the proportions is going to give you a very nice idea of how they're tackling their stuff. So yeah, let's go to ZBrush. Now, I don't think we really need to start with like C-spheres and do everything from scratch. Normally in production, it will really depend on what kind of like project you're doing, whether you start for completely scratch or not. In this particular case, I think we can definitely start with like a base mesh, and I'm just going to use this female project right here. Okay, so this female project, as you can see, already has a nice sort of like construction in general. I'm going to turn off perspective, and what I can do is I can position this thing right here in the middle of my screen, and then go to ZBrush and use the see-through option. Actually, I might need to zoom out a little bit. There we go, something like that. Use the see-through option to check how the proportions are, right? So if the head is right there, you can see that immediately we need to make our legs a little bit longer. We need to bring the torso up as well. So I'm just going to switch to mask lasso here. I'm going to mask the torso of my character. Let's not use so much see-through, just very, very barely there. There we go. I'm going to push the legs up first. Oh, let's again mask them out. Push them up. Let's center the pivot. So I'm going with the head. I'm using the head as my reference, right? Of course, we're gonna modify certain things. We're gonna modify that. There we go. I'm gonna push this up so the torso is a lot smaller. And then I'm gonna move the pivot point to the legs. Mask the legs. I'm gonna extend the legs a little bit more. I'm gonna rotate them out so that they match the direction, and then I'm gonna use the move brush, but I'm gonna use the move brush that has this option called move infinite depth, so that when I move something, everything moves on the character. You can see that the lower legs are a little bit smaller than the other legs, and now I'm pretty much just tracing the silhouette here. So I'm gonna start tracing the silhouette. You can see that the rib cage is way smaller. The hips are way smaller. This seems to be... I'm gonna mask the head. I'm gonna push the shoulders up a little bit. Well, I'm a little bit uncomfortable doing that because it really breaks the kind of like silhouette that I normally work with. But that seems to be the case. So we need to sort of like obey the style that we're going for. Let me mask now the arms. And I'm going to rotate the arms down. You can see that the hands are a little bit too long, I would say. So let's bring them in a little bit. There we go. Now let's get rid of see-through. Let's go here. And let's fix stuff, right? Like, it's not going to be perfect, but it should give us a nicer like proportion, like a general proportion of the character. And again, it might look a little bit weird compared to what we're used to, right? Like the traditional sort of like realistic human proportions, but we should not worry too much about that just yet. We should focus on following the style. Now I'm gonna dynamesh. I don't want to freeze subdivision levels. I definitely want to dynamesh with a high subdivision or with a high amount, so that especially the fingers, they do not like merge. Did it? No. Let's go a little bit higher. Dynamesh. No. There we go. So yeah, especially what I'm looking for is I don't want fingers to get there. Now, I tend to get distracted with the faces quite a bit, so I'm just going to pretty much erase the face. I'll redo the face later on. And she has a helmet, so that like definitely makes it a lot easier. We're not even going to see the ears. And that way, I can focus a little bit more on the general proportions of the character. Closest says, "Hi Abe, how are you doing? I'm trying to follow the smart methods you suggested during the other stream. For now, I didn't do too much progress, but I think it's normal." Yeah, it's normal, but you should always try to, again, like the smart method is really good if you really set it up in a way that guarantees that you're not going to fail, right? So if your smart method starts with you saying something like, I'm going to do a full character, you're going to fail. Like, that's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to do it. So it's important, again, that you always set it up in a way that's going to allow you to succeed, because those small successes that you do will motivate you to keep pushing forward, okay? That's, again, that's the secret to that specific method. Very well. So now that we have this very basic sort of like proportions, we need to start cleaning up all of the things. So we're going to go through a cleanup process where, yes, we save ourselves a little bit of time with this base mesh, right? Because we have a very basic proportion and very basic gesture. But we want to start exaggerating all of the things that we know that we're going to need for the character. So for instance, here's where we're going to have the rib cage. So let's give it a little bit more form. Like, make sure that the rib cage is really looking like the rib cage. And I'm looking at the reference that I have here from the Invisible Woman on the other screen to make sure that I'm following things as close as possible. Okay. Sadiko says, I have a Blender file where I imported all Marvel Rivals characters. Dude, yes, if you can send that to me on the Discord, that would be great. I don't want to showcase it here on the stream because I don't want to get into any issues. Like, we've been playing by the rules for all of this projects this time, so I don't want to what's the word? I don't want to get that like a copyright strike or something. But yeah, that would be great. That would be great to have as a reference. Let's see. Hey, Gabe Owners, is that Blender? No. This is not Blender, man. This is ZBrush. We're using ZBrush to start blocking in this character right here. Now, I'm trying to measure something here. I'm trying to measure the distance between the shoulders and the arms. I feel like these arms are way too far apart, so I'm going to push them in a little bit. There we go. That looks a little bit nicer. And now, of course, we're going to give this the sharp look that it has. So I'm going to add a little bit of volume there. And with Trim Dynamic, I'm going to start sort of like sharpening this like shoulder connection. It has this very angular view. Let's fill in this volume right here. The pectoral muscle goes towards the shoulder, so we need to fill that volume. Bro said Gabe Owners. Let's see. Is environment course in the first course of the... Yes, Krishna. You guys want to see something? Here's a sneak peek. I'm gonna show you a little sneak peek of the environment course. I promise you guys, I'm working on it. I know I've been promising it for a long time out, but I am definitely working on it. It's just taking some time to get there. Okay, here. So remember the bell we did a couple of weeks ago? Oh, it's texture now. This is gonna be part of the course. We're gonna be taking a look at how to import this, how to like set everything up, and this is gonna be. Yeah, it's part of the whole process, right? We're going to talk about baking. We're going to talk about textures, modular kit, trim sheets, environment, landscape. It's a bunch of stuff. So that's a little sneak peek there on the environment course. But I want to make sure that I'm delivering something that's worth it, right, guys? Like I think you guys can be like you're witnesses. You know that when I deliver a course, I try to do it in the best possible way. So. This course has been very tricky because I've had to re-record so many things because things were not flowing. They were not flowing nicely. Let's see. That's okay, man. See you on the next one. So it's been challenging, and I'm gonna confess something. I know it's not something that I really need to share, but I just want to be very transparent with you guys. Last year, on the last 3 months of the year, I had some like intense personal stuff that I had to deal with, and it really took me out of the creative mindset. So there was like several months where I could barely record anything because it was just like a very not emotionally and like mentally draining to be going through that situation. It was not a situation that I was going through, but some people that are very close to me were going through that situation, and that really affected me. So that's why I couldn't like push as much as I wanted last year. But this year, that's the first course that I'm working on. I've been recording quite heavily this week, so I hope to have more news soon for you guys. Okay, let's see. Igor says you definitely can count with me for this course. Thank you, guys. Thank you. How do I deal with that? How do I deal with personal situations? Well, you guys got to understand that this thing that we do, art, right? it can be work as therapy, but my best advice is to always focus on what's most important at any given time, right? I know we tend to give a lot of like importance to our craft and our work, and yes, it's very, very important, but our personal life, our families, our friends, our health, right? Mental health, body health, all of those things are very, very important as well. So to me, the way I dealt with it is like I found what the sort of like minimal thing I had to do, which was live streams, recording videos, shorts, of course my day job with the studio. So I was like, okay, I need to at least make sure that I can focus properly on those things, and if I have any extra time, I'll start dedicating it to the other stuff like the course. So I prioritize. My best advice when you are in those situations is try to prioritize, and don't feel bad if you need to prioritize things that are not work. Work is always going to be there, always. Even when you die, work is still going to be pending, and it's an unfortunate thing of our world and on society and everything like that we don't give enough credit to other parts in our life. But you got to understand that work is always going to be there. So try to disconnect from it and try to give enough like importance to other things, again, such as family, friends, health, all those kind of elements. Life first, yeah, Casey, as Casey's saying there, life first. Unfortunately, yeah, you might lose some opportunities. You might be delayed in some of your goals, but there's more important things in life, I think. Last year was horrible for the industry as well. Yeah, that's as well. Alvis with a question here. What tablet are you using? Also, do you think 16-inch is enough? I'm a beginner looking to get a display tablet. Yes. So I'm using the Canvas 22. Canvas, it's Canvas 22, I think. Huion Canvas 22. You can see I did a review video last year as well. I think they sent this to me on November. And before that, earlier last year, they sent me the Huion Canvas 13, which is a smaller tablet. I use that one now with my laptop, which is, I love it as well. I think 16 is a really nice size. If you are going to be like moving it around, like if you're going to be traveling with your laptop and stuff like that, 16 can definitely be a good option as well. Yeah, the Huion Canvas 16, really good one. I actually think I reviewed, I'm not sure if I reviewed that one on this channel, but yeah, that's a good pick. Yeah, for beginners, it's okay with 16. And to be honest, like the 22 that I have right now, I would only recommend it if it's your like dedicated studio and you're not going to be moving it around. Because I would never move this one around. It's way too big. It's way too big. I know there's like a 27-inch one, I think. I would say that might be like overkill. The 24 might be nice, to be honest. And I think they have like a 4K option or something like that. So that could work as well. Yeah, 16 is perfectly fine. Oh, yeah, the new Leak cinematic, Keck Double. Oof, amazing, amazing. Really freaking good. The Noxus one, right? It was done, I believe, by the same studio that did Arcane. So they're like teasing what's coming up, which is great. I'm so glad that they're doing like a cinematic universe on that stuff as well, because it's so beautiful, so inspiring. Okay. So I think we're in a good position here with like the base mesh. We got like the main shapes and forms, so we can start adding some of the details. So let me jump here to my reference for Jane, because the first thing, and again, this is just the blocking stage. We're just working on blocking stage right now. But the first thing that I definitely need to add is going to be the helmet, right? So I do have a side view. Let me get it real quick. I do have a side view of the face from Invisible Woman. There we go. I'm gonna use this to, again, just sort of like trace the main proportions. Especially in female characters, one of the tricky parts is always the nose. Because if you do it wrong, you can get like a very sort of like masculine looking nose. Or it can look very sort of like childlike, so it's definitely one of those tricky situations. I'm gonna trace the depth of the eyes. Even though I'm not adding the eyes, I'm just tracing the sort of like the depth of where the eyes are going to be. As you can see, they're quite high, to be honest. Quite high. Hey, thanks for the follow. Who was that? Let me check my feed right here. Oh, it's Arisa. Thank you, Closel. Says, hi, Abe. I was wondering what I could do as a beginner, low intermediate, to learn how to model guns for games, since it's the main reason I'm learning 3D modeling. Can't wait to see how this project turns out. That's a great question. That looks funny. Yeah, so that's a problem with working with just a side view. The proportions on the front view might not be perfect. So we need to fix them a little bit there. So I would recommend starting with a simple gun. Again, following the SMART method that I talked about on the first live stream of the year is very, very important. And a very common mistake is that people try to do like very complicated things from the get-go. And if you do that, you are just like setting up for failure. I always use this example, right? Imagine you want to run a marathon. You're not going to just go and sign yourself up for the like New York Marathon. You need to practice. So you're going to start with a 5K, and then you're going to do a 10K, and then you're going to do a 21K, and then you're going to do the full marathon, right? Well, it's the exact same thing with art. If you want to do a gun like the Halo guns, right, or like the Destiny guns that are really intricate and really interesting, well, you first need to start with something simple. My favorite like a classic gun to do is like an M1 Garand, right, from World War I. I think this is relatively simple. There's a bunch of like things online, and you can do it. I also really like the like a revolver, like 19. It's one of the first revolvers, like a Colt. There you go, the Colt. This is another like great, like relatively simple model that you can do in 3D. So those are good ways to start, because again, the 3D complexity of those models is not that intense, and it allows you to understand how things are going to be like working on the whole pipeline. But what you do need to like be very mindful of is that you need to finish it. Like very common thing is people start projects and then they never finish them. And I'm talking to you. I know you're listening. So it's very important that you do the projects. Okay, finish the projects, guys. If you're gonna start something, be true to your word and finish it. Yeah, I know this is gonna fall on everyone right now, because we as artists, we tend to have like a pile of unfinished works. So this is for everyone out there, even for me. Let's see. How do you learn recreating likeness? I find actually recreating likeness to be really difficult. It's about observation, Kosa, and it's about understanding of the underlying structures and forms of the character. I know it sounds very fancy and very intense. We do cover a little bit of that likeness on the anatomy course, in case you want to check it out. But it's about like understanding what structures are underneath the skin, what structures are underneath the muscles and the fat, so that you can try to replicate those. And it's about like measuring. You measure a lot in traditional sculpture. There's this thing, where is it? This thing called calipers. You probably have seen them before. It's this thing right here. We measure everything. Like if you're doing like any sort of like thing, you will measure and measure and measure and measure. Check the distance between one point and another. Check the angle. Check this. Check that. And it's compare and fix. Compare and fix. It's a lot of comparison. We tend to be very. Our ego gets a little bit in the way, and we think that we know everything when in fact we don't know like anything really. So you need to understand that you need to, again, like compare, measure, and that's going to give you a very good idea of how, what's the word, of what kind of stuff that you need to do, okay? So I'm going to mask out the helmet here. I'm going to go quite low, something like that. I'm going to keep it straight. She's got a very straight helmet, I think. Yeah, it's a little bit of curvature, but we can change that later. And once we do that, I'm going to go to Subtool, Extract, and we're going to extract with 0 thickness. Accept. There we go. So this is what we have. I'm going to go all the way down to Deformation, and I'm going to do a little bit of polish. A little bit right there. There we go. And then I'm going to go Geometry, see Remesh, and we're going to see Remesh. Especially because I want to have like a clean border there on the underside. Half, and see Remesh again. And see Remesh again. And see Remesh again. The lowest polygon like we can have, the better. Because it's going to be a lot easier to control the border right there. We can go to Deformation again. And maybe polish by features a little bit. There we go. And now we can go to Geometry. Dynamic Subdiv. Turn this on. And give this a little bit of thickness. Probably a little bit more. Thickness. There we go. That looks a little bit better. And then I'm going to Dynamesh with polish turn on and a high resolution. Well, actually, let's apply this first. And now we Dynamesh. There we go. And I'm going to use like the knife curve to make a very clean cut across the whole thing. There we go. Eventually, this is all going to be baked down, so I don't need to worry too much about like the inside of this helmet. Make sure that symmetry is turned on, and we can start giving this a little bit more shape. There we go. Sometimes I do this where I dye in the mesh and re-dye in the mesh and re-dye in the mesh and dye in the mesh and re-dye in the mesh. Like it's a back and forth until I find like the exact form that I'm looking. And this is where I'm going to start delving a little bit more into like the Marvel Rivals sort of like aesthetic, right? Because we definitely need to generate something that looks interesting here on the helmet. So I'm going to carve in this. It has like an eyebrow. There we go. And then we have like a little crystal right here. All of this are eventually going to be like separate pieces probably. I'm just sort of like sketching the design that I want to go for. And then she has like this like runes right here on the helmet. Something like that. Let's see. Siri Mesh is just for a quick clean sculptable topology. Yeah, it's gonna give us a nicer topology to work with. Now, for instance, if I take a look at the Invisible Woman here, I should be able to see, there we go, the shape of the eyes, right? So if I take a look at the shape of the eyes, this is very, again, very like faceted, very geometric. So I need to try to copy that here on my character as well. So it has like a very intense, like nice sharp line here. Gonna carve in there a little bit more. Let's see. Do you, hey, Ev, will talk about posting this character? Can you have a stream about posting this character? Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is this is a humanoid character, so it's fairly simple to just like rig it with like any like auto rigging like softwares like AccuRig or things like that. So yeah, we could potentially do like posting for this character. I definitely want to keep the nose very straight. Again, keep it very angular. There we go. It's a little bit flat on the surface actually, so I'm gonna add a little bit of volume here. I'm gonna keep it flat on the front instead. And again with move brush, just flatten it out. Gonna make it go a little bit towards the center there. There we go. SketchX, what's up, my friend? Let's see. Finishing this card since I have ADD. See, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. And I'm not picking specifically on you, but I've heard that like justification quite a bit lately, especially in the last couple of years with a lot of my students. You guys need to understand that we all have limitations and we all have things that make it difficult for us to like get to our goals, right? And for some of you, it might be ADHD. For some of you, it might be some sort of like slow learning process. Some of you might have, I don't know, like a leg injury or like a hips injury that you cannot stand still or sit down for long periods of time. Unfortunately, the world, you know, the industry doesn't care about that. And it's not that there's no empathy or whatever. It's just that it's difficult to accommodate everyone. So if you have something that's making it difficult for you to achieve your goals, you are the one responsible on finding a way to adapt to that like inconvenience or to that situation or to that stuff. Yes, the world can try and help you out a little bit and find a way to, again, to be a little bit more inclusive and like accommodating, but it's also your responsibility to try to do your part on dealing with it. So if you have ADD or ADHD or whatever, well, what are you doing? Are you going to any therapist to get maybe like a treatment or to understand certain tools that you could use to try to work with that? Because if you're not doing that, then that's on you. That's your fault, right? And we like to excuse ourselves and give ourselves like way too many justifications on why we're not doing something or why we're not achieving something, when in reality, at the end of the day, it's your life, and again, it's your responsibility to be able to find a way to deal with it. Okay, so that's the basic helmet right there. Exactly, the world doesn't care. You gotta keep creating, even with whatever like situations you might have. No, I'm not saying I'm not exactly saying that, Kevin Tension. Like, I'm not saying ignore your problems or I don't care about your problems. I'm just saying, hey, if you have issues, do everything you can to solve those issues first. And once you have a good handle of them, now you start creating, right? But you cannot say that you have issues and then not do anything about them and expect the world to just be like, oh, okay, well, it's you have issues, so I'm gonna give you a job in the in the AAA industry just because you have issues. Well, that's not how it works. Okay, so here what I'm gonna do is, again, I'm gonna use my knife brush to just give myself a little bit of a wing shape. It's not gonna be the exact wing shape that I'm gonna be using to the for the final element, but again, this is just the blocking. Like, my main goal with today's stream is to get a nicer like blocking of the whole thing. So this one goes like right around there. There we go. I'm definitely going to scale this up. Again, from an exaggeration perspective and based on Marvel Rivals, we can definitely go a little bit crazier with the silhouette, right? So push that really high there. And let's mirror well. There we go. Cool. Let's see. My Mounsu says, hey Ev, I'm extremely sick right now. I'm watching the stream with a runny nose. Any advice? Well, I mean, if you're sick to the point that you can't do any work, then just rest, man. We were talking about this not like a couple of minutes ago, right? Like, health is very important. So don't over push it to the point that then it's gonna be even harder to come back from the sickness. So make sure that you are like taking good care of yourself in that sense. One thing that I like to do when I'm feeling like really sick, and I want to sort of like be a little bit more efficient with my time, I watch tutorials. I watch making ofs. I watch like a series that inspires me, you know, like Arcane. So you can use your time instead of just like doom scrolling on TikTok or whatever. You can try to use your time to learn a little bit more about maybe a specific technique or a specific process or something. And that's a good way to at least make good use of the time while we're sick. Okay, so I'm masking here. We're gonna extract now the chest portion. I'm gonna start first with the breastplate. She's got like a breastplate, and then on top of the breastplate, she's got like a neck guard or something. So that's the breastplate right here. Yeah, sorry. Hi, I'm in Stofi. I missed your message. Can you send it again? A word of advice: enjoy the fever nightmares. They're great. As a second-year 3D animation student, I really want to do something in 3D. I'm also an artist, and I like to create from the beginning to the final. Do you think there's a better future in 3D compared to animation? It's the same. It's like AI and all of these things, companies, profits, you know, the industry. Like everything is in a very similar state. So I would say pick the thing that you enjoy the most. I know it sounds very corny and it sounds like a very simple advice, but if you pick something that you really enjoy, then the chances of you being able to do or to making it right are bigger, because you are, again, doing something that you really enjoy. So if you really like animation, like feature film animation or like Pixar style animation, stuff like that, keep doing that. I don't believe, I mean, it's good that you see how the panorama is moving. If I saw that like, oh no, there's not going to be any more animation work, or there's not going to be any more 3D work, I would tell you. But right now I see that it's pretty much the same thing everywhere. Like, there's layoffs in every single industry, there's layoffs in every single department. So if you do things that you enjoy, the chances of you making it can be a little bit higher. Let's polish this a little bit there. Again, geometry, Siri mesh, half. There we go. Oh. Again, I'm playing with the silhouette, so I'm making things a little bit thicker than what I would normally do them, because I want them to really like push. There we go. Now I don't really need to extract like the pants, right? Because the pants are gonna be like very skin tight. But what I can do here is I can just do a quick sketch of her stuff. So she's got like a little hook here, and then this is like a pants right there. And one thing that a lot of people do is they like to poly paint. So I'm just gonna go. I recently discovered this one. I didn't know that they changed the poly paint stuff to here. So I can just say fill color to fill the character with this color, with the whole color. And then I'm going to mask lasso. And let's mask all of that area right there. There we go. Let's grab like a little bit of darker blue, something like that. And then fill color. And there we go. So that gives us an idea. Maybe a little bit darker. There we go. So that's going to give us an idea. I don't like to go super dark though, because if it's super dark, then the forms are difficult to see. So that's why I'm using this sort of like light blue. Now, do I have my materials here? No, I don't. There's these new materials, the monster materials. They're really good. There we go. I really like that one, the gray material. That one looks nice. And there's another one. Where is it? Green clay, monster clay. Yeah, that one's fine. And then what we can do is we can go to materials, modifiers. No, because this is not a... Oh, this one. Monster clay. Not monster clay gray. Monster clay gray. There we go. That one. And then we can go material and just increase the ambient a little bit. And that's going to make the material a little bit lighter. And then if you really like this one, you can click on this save as starter material. So anytime you start ZBrush, it's going to start with this like monster clay material, which again, is very good. We're going to texture it eventually, but well, first we need to finish the model, right? So let's go for the belt now. The belt's going to be like this. Probably a little bit longer here. And again, I'm playing a little bit with the silhouettes. So deviating a little bit from the comic. There we go. Let's extract that. I should add the extract option to my like tools, because I use it quite a bit. Geometry, Siri mesh. So that's the belt right there. It's looking good. I always like to Siri mesh and have this a couple of times so that we have cleaner topology to work with. That's very nice. And then we can use the dynamics of div to give this thickness. How much thickness? Again, we're probably gonna like really give it a little bit more thickness than what we might think, just because we want this thing to really change the silhouette. So something like that, and then we're gonna have like trims and things like that later on. Apply. Let's grab like a brownish color, fill object. I'm gonna start filling objects with the colors that they sort of like represent. Color, fill object, color, fill object, color, fill object. And on this character here, it's gonna be a little bit more complex. Oh, here's a cool trick. So let's say I want to paint all of the rest of her skin like a more of a skin color, right? But it's gonna be difficult to make a mask that follows exactly what we already have. So what I can do here is I can go to the masking options, and I can say mask by color. And then on mask by color, mask by intensity. And as you can see, it generates a mask that very nicely like masks out things that are more intense. So now I can grab like a little bit of a more of a pinkish hue and say color fill object. And that way the character is going to have a more of a skin tone. Again, this is a good way to just like quickly see how things are looking. It doesn't mean that this is going to be the final like color that we're going to be using for the character, but it just gives us a nice nice idea, right? Here I'm just going to finish painting all those areas. I think she's a little bit like the belly is a little bit too intense, especially again compared to like Invisible Woman. The thing definitely feels a little bit high, so let's push it forward a little bit. There we go. Awesome. What's my go-to software for texturing? Substance. Second one is Marmoset, and then if I'm doing hand painted style stuff, I go with what's the word? 3D Code, of course. Rebel shader, yeah, the shader is very procedural. The shader is someone recreated it using Blender, I think, and it's very procedural. It's like a toon shader, but not exactly it. The texture itself, I do think it's hand painted. Like they do some sort of like procedural stuff, and then they hand paint the last final details. You can see it here. Like, look at how nice this face looks. So it definitely has like a base of just like traditional texturing, but then all of this is specific highlights that they're adding. This is specific lines. Those feel very deliberate. Like I think they definitely went ahead and did them by hand to just like sharpen a couple of things up. Because I don't think you can get that procedurally and naturally. I'm not sure though. Maybe they are using something like that. Interestingly enough, the hair is hair cards. So they're still using hair cards for this kind of like things, this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting like process. Can you tell me how to make rope or tie rope around objects like hands and all? You can use curves, man. I do have a video. Look it up here on the YouTube channel. It's like ropes, how to make ropes or something like that. You use C-spheres, and then you transfer those C-spheres. Like, you use C-spheres to wrap around something. It's easier to build it that way. And then you transfer that to, what's the word? You convert that to a curve, and then you convert that curve to like an insert multi-mesh thing, which has like a rope or something. Okay, so let me again mask the hand here. There we go. Yeah, it goes pretty much to the bicep there. I'm gonna invert that and selecting this same color. I'm just gonna color fill object. And as you can see, little by little, just by adding these little details, we can already sort of like see the character starting to appear, right? Now, I always recommend adding hair, even if it's like a very basic hair like construction. So I'm going to append a sphere, because that's the kind of stuff that can really start like showing you the character. So I'm going to add this hair here on the back. The cool thing is her hair, all of her hair flows from the back of the helmet. So that's a lot easier to deal with. Now, in Marvel Rivals, they really go crazy with the flowiness of the hair. So I would expect this one to be quite flowy as well. Let's give her, of course, her blonde hair. There we go. See that? And we're already getting something. I'm going to use a snake hook here and turn on Sculptress, so that way I can like generate a couple of like interesting strands. Someone asked previously about some studios preferring people with a degree rather than self-taught. Thoughts? If this is a very good question. If you intend to travel to a different country, right? Like you're gonna migrate to a different country, especially due to visa things and visa permissions and issues like that, it's easier to help someone who has a degree, because that's what they use to sort of like estimate or gauge whether like that person is worth bringing into the country. So for those particular cases, yes, it is important. But if you are in a place where you can move freely and you don't need to do a lot of like those bureaucratic things, in that case, portfolio is always more important, right? But if you are in a country and you intend to migrate again to like Canada or the United States or something like that, then yes, a degree can definitely be helpful. Because if they see a candidate that has a strong portfolio and no degree, and they see a candidate that has a strong portfolio and a degree, this one's going to get the permission, right? This one looks more valuable to the country to bring them in than the one who has no degree. Is it unfair? Is it like unjust or whatever you want to call it? Well, that's not for me to that's not for me to say, but that's how it works, unfortunately. That's why when people tell me, oh, I'm in my second year in uni, should I drop it? It's like, if you're already in the second year, third year, and you're about to finish, you might as well have the degree, right? You're already there, so just finish your degree, and that might be a little bit more helpful. Let's turn off sculptures. Let's see. I really thought Gore was gonna win. I really thought that too, and it might have been like a cool thing as well. But I'm not mad that Jane Foster won. I'm a little bit scared about this one, guys, and I'm going to tell you why. When I was younger as an artist, this was back in 2018, I think, or 2017, I tried to do it. I tried to do a Jane Foster, like a fan art, and I failed miserably. Like, it looked horrible, horrible, horrible. So yeah, I'm a little bit scared because now I'm even live, right? I'm live, and I need to to really do something that looks fine. So it's gonna be challenging, but I want to take this challenge. I think I can do it. I've grown a lot as an artist in the past couple of years, so I'm confident I can deliver something cool. And with your support, it's gonna be even easier. Let's see. In Rivals, her hair will probably shoot outwards like lightning. Yeah, exactly. It will probably like just like be like poking down. But here I just want to have a basic like construction. You can see here in Sue Storm. Again, it's very similar. All right, so I'm using her a lot as a reference because I do feel like she fits the body type. She fits the general like proportions and everything very, very clearly. So I'm trying to follow a little bit of this. Especially again when you're doing a fan art and you want to really sell it as if it's part of the game or whatever, you really want to make sure that it looks like you follow what they're already done in other designs, right? Like you use other designs as inspiration. Someone was asking this question the last live stream, which is, how can I know if my stuff is good or not? And I've shown this sort of like technique before, where you go into ArtStation and do a cut of all of the, like, just take a snapshot of the trending page and then include the thumbnail of your work in between those elements. And if it looks like it belongs, if it fits right there, that's a good indication that your level is getting there. If it looks way too bad or way too good, then that's going to be either a very good indication or a very bad indication, right? But literally placing your artwork side by side with others' artwork is a very good way to estimate your skills. So here I'm using a sphere and I'm blocking in the other section of her chest armor. I'm gonna use Stream Dynamic because it's very easy to extract this information later on. We can even turn on polish and increase the resolution a little bit, or quite a bit. There we go. Because remember, guys, at this point, like, this is what you would present to an art director before you even commit to doing the characters. Like, hey, we're gonna do Mighty Thor. Well, here's the blocking of the general proportions and stuff. And in just a second, I'm gonna start like playing a little bit more with a little bit of crazy silhouettes to fit that marble like style effect. For instance, here I'm gonna add like this like intense like change in silhouette on the armor. It's like a trim, right? And normally this kind of stuff I would clean inside of Maya. So once I'm happy with the shape and I really need to be like super pristine and super clean, I'll just jump into Maya, do retopology, and clean it up. I know there's some people who really like working everything inside of ZBrush, but I've said this before. At the end of the day, whatever your process is to get the result, that's fine. As long as you can do it efficiently, cleanly, and all that kind of stuff, then it doesn't matter too much. Let's see. My friend dropped out of college in the last semester. Oof, that's tough. Oh, thank you, Alan. Yeah, the lamp turned out pretty nice, right? I heard that the studios make a quick sculpt of the character and send it across all of the departments. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because once I have this like clean sculpt right here, if I decimate it, I could even send it to the rigger. And as long as we are committed to not making like extreme changes, he could already start working on like a very basic rig that then later on gets again like polished to be ready for the animators. The layout scene artist can start like taking a look at how she looks and build a like environment pieces, again following her sort of like design. So there's a lot of things that can happen once you have like a good base mesh ready. So that's why the base mesh, like this initial stage, is so important. And as you can see, I'm constantly moving my head here, not only to check the chat, guys, but also to check my reference. I have my reference here on my other monitor, and I'm literally looking at the shapes, at the forms, at the profiles, all of these things right here. I love her design. It's so freaking cool. Okay, we're gonna stylize it a little bit more. For instance, the eyes. We can make it a little bit more anime-ish. Like Rivals looks very anime-ish, right? Like a little bit of that sort of like Japanese style in some things. So we can utilize that sort of like shape language, as we call it, to really generate something. So for instance, the noise here, I'm gonna make it pointy as we get to the end. And this is where we're gonna start adding a little bit of the sort of like Marvel Rivals style. You also got to consider how we're going to be seeing it. So in this case, we're going to be seeing it from the back. She's going to have the very flowy cape. Do we have characters with cape? Yeah, of course, Cloak and Dagger, right? And Doctor Strange and stuff. You're scared of anime anatomy? Nah, it's not that bad. It's just like anytime you were working with a stylized thing, like a stylized character or like stylized anatomy, it's just if you understand. That's why they always tell you learn the rules so that you can break them, right? So that's what they do in anime style stuff. Like it's not that they're breaking the rules, it's they're adapting it to a different kind of like element. So we can totally do that. Do you use another engine other than Marmoset for what? For renderings, Khalid? Yes, I use like Unreal Engine, of course. Right now we're working on a project and we're using Unity. I don't know how to use Unity, but I'm art directing the team that's doing it. So yeah. Okay, I don't love this piece. I don't love it. I think it should be a little bit bigger, especially here on the front. And I definitely think it should be sharper. There we go. And instead of going in, I kind of want the curvature to go out. Now, those of you who play Marvel Rivals, what do you think Jane should be? Should she be a tank? Should she be like a DPS? Should she be a support? I kind of see her as a DPS because Thor is a tank, right? Haven't played with Thor too much, but I think Thor is a tank. Yeah, I think she should be a DPS. Duelist, right? Let's see. How do you adapt the geometry for 3D printing? I normally just Dynamesh everything at the end, Isaac, or I Boolean union it here inside of ZBrush and clean up any like areas that might need some like changes. There's a way of making a decimate and get squares instead of triangles? No, there's no way to get decimation with triangles. And do you recommend making a decimate for then texturing on substance? Only if you're going to be doing the nanite process. Like you can texture a nanite mesh that was decimated. It can be done. So yeah, there's a couple of techniques. I actually show one technique like that in the environment course. So yeah, it is possible to do that, to decimate and then texture that inside of substance or marmoset. But you need to be very clean about how you do it. A tank. Yeah. Thor is a tank, but he lies somewhere between a duelist and a tank. Yeah, it's a little bit of a hybrid, right? Okay, so that's that. On this belt, I do wanna just like very quickly sketch a couple of things. So she's gonna have like a big trim right here. I might add like you know how they add like threads here. Again, this is just the blocking, so all of this stuff can be later on replaced or rebuilt. And that's one advice I give you guys. Don't fall in love with your characters or with your creations. I know it sounds weird to say, but what I mean by this is understand that if you need to break or redo something, that's fine. Yes, it's going to take time. Yes, it's a little bit tedious to have to sort of like backtrack and do stuff like that. But if you understand that, it's a lot easier. Now I'm just going to add a cylinder for the bracer that she has on the left hand. A lot of people, especially students, they get really frustrated when they're doing something and then it doesn't work the way they're doing it because they feel like they have to start over. But you're not starting over, because all of the things that you learn on the first like failure, right? They're gonna help you with the next one, or with the next part of the process. So again, you gotta trust the process in that case. From a delegation standpoint, she might struggle to be a tank since all tank characters can be easily countered. Yeah, that's why I think she's more like a duelist. She's more aggro oriented. Do we have are there any female tanks on Marvel Rivals? That's an interesting question, because I don't think I've seen too many. Let's see. Trust the process, exactly. Is there any other digital sculpture you admire? What do you mean, like artists that I admire as digital sculptors? Yeah, I got a bunch of them. Yeah, sculptors. Yeah, I mean, Chaos Masons, as we've mentioned before, Rafa Grassetti. There's this guy, Andrea Tarabella. He does like miniatures for D&D. I really like his stuff. Who else? James Marzano, as I've mentioned before. He's a great sculptor. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there. Okay. Jay Hill, yeah, your Jay Hill's pretty cool as well. Can you give me professional feedback about my project? I can do that if you submit to Portfolio Review, my friend. If you submit to Portfolio Review, we're going to feature your work here on the stream. Now, if you want me to take a deep dive with you and talk about the specifics of your project, I also offer mentorship sessions where we talk about anything that you might need. Some of the people here might have taken some of my mentorship sessions, so they can vouch for what we go over them. But yeah, you can contact me on Discord and I can give you more information about that. But here on stream, no, unfortunately, I cannot do that, because otherwise I would never finish the projects that we start here. I think I want to extract this piece right here. Like on the body, I really think. Right now, I'm just going to add like a little bit of a bump here. To sort of like separate the, let's say the fabric from the skin. Again, that sort of like gives us a little bit of a change in silhouette. Very common in low poly characters, where you just like extrude a little bit of the underlying geometry. And of course, we're gonna have a couple of like wrinkles, right? Not too many. We're gonna keep it simple, but just a couple there to indicate that this is a separate part of the character from the skin, right? As you can see, I'm working with very, very low poly. On this initial stages of the process, I don't like going into high poly like elements, because it becomes very difficult to control. So high poly is usually the way to go. Have I seen Rafa Souza? Yes, I've seen his stuff as well. Penny Parker, yeah, that's right. She's a tank. What is the procedure of animated texturing on 3D models, like the one you have shown right now? I listened somewhere, like to play along the normal. Yeah, you use things like all of that happens in engine or in the shaders themselves, and it's just a texture that's like moving from left to right. It's usually what's the word? It usually needs to be a texture that is that's tileable, right? So that it can like properly tile along the way. Now let's go for the blocking of the bandages here on the feet. Right there. It's probably a little bit higher. So right around there. Why is this not? There we go. And again, always think about those angles that we're adding, like those lines. I could make this completely straight, but it breaks the sort of like the intensity of the angle, right? So if we add a little bit of an angle right there, not too much, but if we add a little bit of an angle, that allows us to, again, to generate something that looks interesting. So let's extract. Accept. This ones, I really don't need to do like the whole Dynamesh thing. We can just give them thickness. A little bit of thickness. Even that feels a little bit too much. I don't know. No, maybe it's fine. Let's just apply. Because what we're then gonna do with this one is just give them a quick sort of like texture, just to get an idea of how this like leather straps would look, right? It's just a sketch. I want to get good characters so I can do custom figurines. Yeah, well, you gotta learn anatomy, man. You might want to check the anatomy course that I have, because it has a couple of chapters at the end where we talk about 3D printing and the kind of stuff that you need to take into account for 3D printing, because that can really help. In Marmoset, can you bake the low poly, high poly mesh as in Substance? Of course, my friend. Of course you can do that. Why wouldn't you? Remember, Marmoset is a complete kit. Like, you can actually texture inside of Marmoset. It's really good for texturing as well. It's not just for rendering. It's really good for texturing as well. Color, fill object. There we go. Okay. Now the boots. Oh, man, I hate boots. If there's one thing I hate doing is like shoes and boots and things like that. So let me show you what I like to do for those ones. So I'm going to grab these feet right here. And I'm actually going to cut them from the body. So I'm just going to select the feet and just say subtool and then split hidden. So now the feet are a separate piece. Dynamesh. And I'm actually just going to start like blocking them directly here, like on top of the feet. So I'm going to use the feet as my construction. Because I know that they, since we're starting with the feet like mesh, they sort of like fit a lot closer to the form that I'm looking. Yep, that's the power of a base mesh. Exactly, Empress. First time watching from the Ford Fiesta. You talk about students. Are you a lecturer somewhere or this? Yes, I'm a lecturer. I teach at a university here in Mexico. I've taught at several universities in Mexico throughout the years, but currently I'm only teaching in one. And I have my courses, I have mentorships, I have a small studio that we do stuff. So yeah, I do a lot of mentoring myself, my friend. You are welcome. You are welcome. Let's see. Sumit Sony. Hey, Leal, man. Love your work. Thanks, my friend. Thank you. I love you too, random YouTube user. Those who get that reference, you guys know what good cinema is. Okay, let's add this stuff right here. Do you have any videos texturing in Marmoset? I didn't even know you could texture. No, I don't. But that's on the horizon. I don't have a specific video about Marmoset texturing on the channel yet, but we're definitely thinking about something regarding Marmoset. However, if you check the Substance Painter course, most of the like techniques and elements that I teach on that one, they're very easily transferable into Marmoset. Yeah, David Lynch passed away. That's a shame. Such a great director. Such a great director. Okay, now I think she wears heels. I'm not sure if they're heels or not. Let me see if I can find another concept piece. Yeah, they do have a little bit of a heel effect. Okay, so for shoes, this is very important. We need to rotate them a little bit. Now we can definitely delete all of that. So delete hidden, Dynamesh. So I'm going to rotate the feet a little bit to give her just a tad bit of a heel here. They're like continuous heels. Like it's not like a high heel. So everything is sort of like connected. Another thing we can do is just with the mask, grab that stuff right there. Push this down. And then flatten it. And there we go. And then I'm gonna use my move infinite as well. So it's like boots, like this sort of like weird boots that she has. Again, let's grab this white color here and just say color fill object. These do go on the front of the shoes. There we go. Yeah, that gives us a general idea. Again, they're not perfect, but they feel the basic situation here. Feet do feel a little bit small, so I'm gonna make them a little bit bigger. Let's see. Heading to school. Thank you, Ave. Thank you, my friend. Have a great day. Pay attention on your classes and enjoy. I'd love to learn more about your mentorship. I'm currently taking a character course and looking for guidance. Of course, Elon, Elkin, send me a message on Discord. Just go into the Discord channel, send me a DM, and I'll answer it at the end of the stream, and I can take you about the information there, okay? We need a baking marmoset video. Yes, I'll do that. I think we can do that for next week. You guys want to do that for next week? Let's do that. Let's do a baking and marmoset. I'll use the bell as an example, okay? So that I can show you how it works. Shido, what's up, my friend? Okay, yeah, oh, there we go. Golf Girl says yes, please, as well. Yeah, sure. Let's do that for next week. I'll show you the basics. Love texturing and stuff tool for the stacking layers on layers is in a single material. You can have like 20 layers easy with ground maps. Yeah, it's really cool. Okay, that looks good. Yeah, I mean, she definitely looks stylized enough so far. Can definitely push a couple of things, but okay. So I'm gonna recycle the wings that we have right here. I'm just gonna duplicate them. And this is a very common thing that I tell you guys. Work smart, not hard. So since we're just like getting a general idea of how things should look, we can totally recycle this thing right here on the shoes. And eventually the main ones, like once we do the wings, we could potentially recycle those as well. Because what this achieves is that we are able to get a very sort of like uniform design like process, right? Because both wings on the helmet and on the shoes are going to be very similar. So that looks like they were both, I don't know, like done by the same smith or whatever. So let's go that and mirror well. There we go. That way we can, if we go here to flat color, we can start seeing the silhouette of the character, and this should give us a very nice idea on whether or not we're on the right track for this base mesh. The Silver Summits are so informative. Yeah, if you have chance, guys, go all the way back into the past years, and there's a lot of artists sharing a lot of very cool things, and that's the amazing thing about the time we live in, right? Like there's so much information online that we can all learn from so many different people. I just find that so cool. Back in the day, if you wanted to make video games, you would need to find someone who was working on the studio and pretty much like get a job there to learn the process. Nowadays, anyone can learn 3D. That's why I was telling you a couple of minutes ago, like you need to stop making excuses for yourself. And again, I'm not calling anyone specifically out, but we are extremely fortunate to have so many tools to our disposal that it's just stupid to me when people complain. It's like, oh, I don't have... For instance, I don't have the money to go to study in Hollywood or whatever. Well, that sucks, but you've got other options. And it's up to you to use those options. Like right now, you're here on the live stream, right? You can ask questions. I'm answering every single question. So if you're one of those shy students that don't like to ask questions, use this as an exercise. Just ask questions. Say hello to people. Meet new people. Network. All that kind of stuff. Very important. At this point, if you don't learn, it's because you don't want to. Yeah, and very importantly, if you don't improve, this is one like thing. If you're not improving, you really gotta ask yourself, are you really putting in the work? Because we're so used nowadays to have everything so easy and so fast, right? But if you're not actually like putting in the work and sculpting and doing your homework and doing your exercises and practicing the principles or the basic stuff, then you're just kidding yourself. Like it would be stupid to expect like a top athlete, right, to be able to perform at the Olympics if he did not train for years and years and years and years to get there. So if you're not doing that training, if you're not spending or putting in that time, who are you kidding? Who are you kidding thinking that you're going to be able to be great? You need to put in the work, man. How far are you going to be taking this character? Today, I'm going to try and finish all of like the basics or like blocking principles of the character. You know, just like the basic stuff. I'm going to like tweak the face a little bit because I hate how it looks right now. But eventually I want to do this like I want to complete it. I'm taking this as my first personal project of the year. So hopefully this one will eventually be in my portfolio. Because as I mentioned, I tried doing Jane Foster a couple of years ago and I fell miserably because I was not ready. I didn't have all of the skills. So now I feel like I can try again. Then hopefully succeed this, or not hopefully, I will succeed this time. Okay, let's go for the leather. She's got a couple of like leather things hanging from her belt. We need to do that. Isserine says, I can't express enough. I went from Blender Maya to ZBrush and I have never gotten so angry trying to use the software. Yep. Yeah, it's a very steep learning curve at first, Isserine. I understand you completely. But you gotta sort of like just push through it. As soon as you understand and get the idea of how it works, believe me, you're gonna be able to achieve a lot of stuff. Now, if there comes a point where you're like, I've tried it for a long time now and I just cannot get it to work, that's perfectly valid. If Blender is the way you're gonna be sculpting, go for it. There's this guy who does like, I think like fast characters or quick characters or characters done fast or something like that. It's another YouTuber. And he does amazing things only with Blender. So it is possible. It is totally possible to just use Blender and get like really good results. However, most of the people that I've taught ZBrush throughout the years, they always thank me a couple of months later. It's like, I hate it at first, but now that I understand how it works, I'm really like comfortable with it. Go. Let's see. Empress Tiramis, who has a question, says, since you're working on a character, I do have a question. How does one go about learning to model characters creators outside of anatomy? That's a great question. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? I'm not sure I understand the question perfectly. But what I would say is you also need to focus on silhouette, forms, and perspective. Like if you understand those principles, that can really help in the creation of like characters. So those are like other things that I strongly recommend people like really do. Anthony Ave, your logo is a 20-face dice. That's right, man. That's right. You finally got it? You finally understand what that means? The circle means the 20, right? It's an icosahedron. It's one of the platonic solids in the math world, right? And it's a perspective view of the 20-sided die. That's yeah, it's a little bit of a nod to my love of D&D, of course. ZBrush UI at first felt depressing. Now it feels like home. Yeah, it's a steep learning curve. Again, I'm not gonna lie. I know it is. I know it's not easy to get into it. Let me check the skirt of Thor. Okay, because she's got like two skirts. She's got like one front skirt, and then the back skirt is a different one. It's more like a traditional, like normal skirt. Okay. So someone was asking about like dynamics, right? This is one of those places where I might use dynamics. So I'm going to go here to the back of Thor. And I'm going to mask the back part of the butt right there. And then I'm going to extract that little like face right there. So I'm going to go extract and extract, accept. Oh. Then I'm gonna other groups, just grab this one, delete hidden. And yeah, it's not too much topology. So once this is selected, I'm going to mask the top part, invert the mask, and I'm gonna go to dynamics. I'm gonna create the collision volume, and then I'm going to run the simulation. And as you can see, that thing just like fell, right? Like a piece of like cloth. So I'm just gonna push it a little bit more. I'm gonna go down here to initialize, and or sorry, not display properties, double. There we go. And that's it. I'm just gonna clean this up a little bit. And that gives me a very nice base mesh for the skirt. Now here's where we play again with shapes and forms. So for instance, I'm gonna push this one a lot lower so that we have a little bit of a different distance from this thing right here, from the skirt and the main like leather strap at the front. That way we generate an interesting like visual like shape, right? So it's this thing is shorter and then this thing is longer, and again that creates an interesting silhouette. Let's see. Eastern says, oh yeah, I gave up, nothing worked the way I expected it to work, kind of felt like the software went out of its way to be unique just to be unique, and fell back to Blender for sculpting since I use it for everything else anyway, but I admit the skin details I was able to achieve in ZBrush Blender Squad Gap. Yeah, and again, I do hope that Blender keeps up improving the sculpting. They did a great improvement on 4.3, because competition always breeds innovation, right? So if Blender starts like becoming really good, ZBrush is going to have to pick it up and start offering like more and more stuff. So it's very important to do that. It's very rare to see most artists using Shadowbox. I've never seen use it. Isn't it a good tool? Yeah, Shadowbox is good, but I don't use it either, to be honest. Empress Tiramisu now is clarifying, says, people will say learn anatomy, but don't give direction on how to apply it. Like, do I just pick a character, creature, and attempt? How do I something within my skill level? Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's a great question. Learning anatomy, I think, has two like components. You do benefit from learning like the theory behind anatomy, right? So if you learn about muscles, if you learn about bones, if you learn about articulations, how they connect and all that kind of stuff, it can really help understand, again, all of the forms a little bit better. But learning anatomy, I think it's more about understanding how to build up the volumes that make up a character. And honestly, the best way to learn it, Empress Tiramisu, is by studying the human body. Like, if you can do a proper human body, like a male body or like a female body, then the moment you need to transfer that to making freaking Godzilla, or to making like a horse, or to making like an elephant, you will be able to adapt all of that knowledge into the creation of those forms. So, best way to learn anatomy? Do a human anatomy study. You can start by doing the different parts of the body, like do only an arm, or do only a torso, or do only the head, or a hand, or a leg, or things like that. Or you can try doing the full body. That's what we go over in the Duncan course, where we do a full superhero, right? Because I explain every single part. Like, I think chapters are divided that way. It's like one chapter for arms, and then one for legs, one for chest, one for head, one for torso, all that kind of stuff. And then we join everything together and we make the character. That's how you that's one way you can do it. The anatomy course is also helping me with the gym. It's so useful for knowing how it looks, how it behaves, and how to improve the strength and that muscles. Yeah. Like that's the technical aspect of things, right? Like, understanding something allows you to better work with it, if that makes sense. So that's a very famous quote that Einstein used to have that says, if you can't explain it simply enough, then that means that you don't understand it well enough. So being able to understand the whys and the hows of anatomy really can transfer nicely into the application of the 3D workflow for anatomy as well. Yeah, I'll show you one picture in just a second about the course in case you haven't seen it. Let's go poly paint and fill color. There we go. Yeah, so this is not looking bad, if I may say so myself. This is looking really interesting. Again, as a blocking, just like the general like shapes and proportions of the character, I think we're in a good spot. Now, actually, I do think I have the Thor hammer. Let me look it up, because I'm sure I made a Thor hammer a couple of years ago, so I can definitely bring it here. Jaime Campos says, hey man, where in Mexico are you right now? Saltillo, mi estimado. Yo estoy en Saltillo, Coahuila, acá al norte. Where are you from? Because we got students from all over the world and all over Mexico as well. Do you know any artists that work on Roblox? Yeah, I actually have a very young like mentee that I'm working with, and he is doing stuff for Roblox, and he's getting paid. He's like 14 years or something like that. He's very talented. Any advice for people usually based on Blender switch to learning Maya modeling? Again, guys, I don't like to do too many commercials during the stream. I prefer to focus on the stuff, but I got all of that stuff covered here. So here's the anatomy course, Leal3D.com. That's the site. Here's the anatomy course that I've been mentioning, where we explain all of the things about anatomy. Here's a Maya stylized worlds, which is a basic introduction to Maya. Here's a Blender course, especially for Blender. And this free course, everyone should get this course, because this is something that we see all the time on portfolio review, which is what's the word? Which is presentation. So there's this portfolio presentation workshop to showcase your work in very clean effects. So yeah, Leal3D.com. That's the commercial there. I thought Maya slow load for me. Nah, it sucks. It's loading. It sucks. And then it has this weird bug. It has been happening for the past like 2 or 3 versions, where it just like opens one time and then closes, and then you need to open it up again. It's annoying. There's a way to make Maya open a little bit faster. If you go to Windows, Settings and Preferences, Plugin Manager, and you literally scout all of the plugins and you take out anything that you don't normally use. For instance, Bifrost or Mash or things like that. So if you turn off everything that you normally don't use, it makes a faster load time. But yeah. Yeah, there you go, Melorix. Yeah, and that's the thing that I mentioned on today's short. Was it today's short? Yeah, it was today's short, where I mentioned that you guys got to keep your mind open, because there's a lot of opportunities out there where you can make money if that's what you're in for, and you're gonna be able to generate some cool things. So let me look for, because one of the exercises that I normally teach when I'm teaching 3D is the Thor hammer. Where is it? 2023. You see textures. No, that's not it. 2021. Scenes. Thor start? Is this one? There we go. Here it is. Awesome. Found it. So let me just combine this. File, export selection. The Thor hammer is a very easy one. Like everyone should be able to do this. And it's a fast one as well. Subtool. It's an easy exercise to learn modeling. Someone was asking about like options. That's a very easy one, because it has a lot of things that are very useful. Desktop hammer. There we go. So we can have the hammer here, mainly for, visualization purposes, right? And again, it gives us context of what's going on. Hey, why isn't JC Duncan part of your portfolio art station? And most importantly, how did you decide what goes or doesn't? I haven't included him because I do want to finish him eventually and do like the full texturing process. And it is, isn't it? I think it is. Have I not added it? Because it's a good render. Or sorry, art station. Oh, that's right. I haven't added it. Yeah, I maybe need to add that one, to be honest. But for instance, this one, the ZBrush for iPad one, which is a course that I also really, really like, and the results are fun. These are sculpts that are relatively easy to do. Like, they don't really show my full potential as an artist, right? And even though I really like the renders and all of the tools that we go over in this course, I don't consider them to be like again, like the top of my top works, right? So how do I decide what goes in and what doesn't? If I see that it has a potential, again, to generate a nice reaction and it showcases my skills in a nice level, I include it. I definitely need to include Duncan, to be honest. I thought I had it there, but apparently I don't. So yeah, I'm gonna include that one. Thank you for reminding me. I'm still confused about the Oni and Duncan. Which one is better for anatomy? If you want to learn about anatomy, like the intricacies of anatomy, names of the muscles, all of the insertion points, bones, the structures, and things like that, Duncan. Like the anatomy course is that. It's an anatomy course. It's a lot more technical. It actually is the first time where I did this thing where I had a theory video where I explain everything, and then a sculpting video where I show how to sculpt it. So it's theory, sculpt, theory, sculpt, theory, sculpt. For the Oni, we do mention and I do talk about like importance of the anatomy and things like that, but it's a little bit more like superficial, let's say. If it's the first time you're learning ZBrush, Anthony, Oni course because you learn the basics of the software. Once you know the basics of the software, now you can like again be a little bit more precise and learn about like the intricacies of it by going with the anatomy course. Also, I've been rewatching your old next tooth videos on the little purple crab. Yeah, that one's a good one. That one's a good one. Nah, try it. That one's an easy one as well, tiramisu. That one's it's relatively simple. The fogling, I called it, I think. Can you show that the dynamic thing again? It appears like a cloth sim in ZBrush. Yeah. So in ZBrush, man, anytime you add like anything, like let's start with like a plane, for instance, you can make this dynamic and it behaves like a cloth. So if you want to do again anything, it does need to have a good amount of resolution. So for instance, here I'm just gonna, well, not Dynamesh. Let's Control D to subdivide, and then let's delete like the lower subdivision. There we go. So you just go to Dynamics, and then first you need to recalculate the collision volume to make sure that it finds the collision volume properly, and then you just run the simulation. And that thing's gonna fall like a cloth. There's a couple of things that you can do to control this. For instance, you can increase the simulation iterations. And if you do that, it's gonna be a little bit slower, and it's gonna give you a little bit of a nicer result. And you can also go here in Dynamics, and for instance, the gravity strength, I usually like to lower it to like 5 or 2, so that it's not as strong, and it's also gonna give you a nicer effect. Now, is this as strong as in Marvelous? No, it's a different type of system, but it's a good one. So yeah. Dynamics in ZBrush. I think we have a short about that. I think I did a short. Do I have pets? Yes, I have a dog, and his name is Thor. That's his name right there, Thor. Actually, he's a Bernese mountain dog. One of these guys. I'll bring him to the stream one day. He doesn't like to come up here to the studio though. He's just scared of stairs. But I'll get a picture of him so you guys can see it. What's your thoughts on polymodeling for blockout and then sculpting details? Yeah, that's a perfectly valid way to do it, man. Perfectly valid. And I do that quite a bit as well. Let's see. Marmoset is killing it lately, and Mari, I heard, is good for ZBrush users because you can sculpt in the soft. It's like texturing on the spot. Yeah, Mari is really good. It's just a little bit, again, more technical, and I usually see people who are doing more like film stuff using Mari than Substance Painter. Games is like Substance Painter, you use, or rather, if you're doing games, you're going to be using Substance Painter and Marmoset a little bit more, and if you're doing film or commercial work, you're going to be using Mari a little bit more. I personally use Substance and Marmoset. I used to know Mari, but I haven't used it in years, so it probably has changed quite a bit. Let me just append a couple more things here. And then we'll jump onto the face. Actually, probably the helmet first. So she has like some beads here on the belt. There's 3 of them. There we go. So again, just gonna start breaking some of the details. Hey, Dr. Mo, what's up, man? Comic Caper, what's up as well? How are you, my friend? Welcome to the stream, guys. We're having a lot of fun today because we're doing the Mighty Thor, Jane Foster. Yeah, we started from pretty much scratch, and now we're at this point, so not bad. Yes, Marvelous Designer is way better for cloth creation, of course. But again, you can generate very, very cool things here inside of ZBrush as well. So this thing is definitely going to be like poking out more. On the original helmet, it's more like an inscription, but on this version, I'm gonna make it more of a like something that's, you know, pushing a little bit more. It's night over there. Oh, where are you, Dr. Mo? Are you in like Europe or Asia? Did you see the announcement for the first DLC of Sparking Zero? Beautiful art style. Sparking Zero? What's a Sparking Zero? Oh, Dragon Ball. Yeah, I haven't played this one. But yeah, it looks very, very nice as well. You know what other art style I really like from fighting games? Freaking Guilty Gear. Oh my god, like Guilty Gear is so good, man. I've been, like, this one has been on my wish list on Steam for a long time. I really want to get it, but I don't have anyone to play, and I don't want to play online because people there are just like freaking sick and they they destroy you so fast. But I love the style from Guilty Gear. That's another one that I really, really like. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna use the shapes of the helmet to generate a little bit more of an interesting like patterns and like carved lines here. Oh, the music stopped. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me go full screen. There we go. Let's go here. Let's start again. Awesome. There we go. Will this be available for playback? Yes, Popcorn. Remember, we always upload all of our streams, but I need to first, I take them out for a couple of days, and then I edit a couple of things out, especially the intro and the wait time. I take it out so that people can jump straight into the creation of the characters, and then they're available once again here inside of YouTube. So yeah, they will be available after the stream. There we go. Now this inside of the eyes is actually like a glass thing or something. So I'm going to add a sphere here. There we go. Push this in. The eye is also going to be very helpful because it's going to allow me to properly create the curvature of the eye, which is something that we mentioned frequently. Eyes have curvature, and a very common mistake is that we forget about that and we make them way too flat. So it's very important to respect that, again, that curvature of the eye. That's going to give it a lot of depth as well. And this one's gonna be completely black, so color, fill object, mirror and well. And now that we have the eye right there, now we can work a little bit more on the shape of the helmet here, especially the shape of the eyes, right? We might need to move the eye a little bit. There we go. So it's more of an almond shape rather than a spherical shape. And remember that when you have multiple objects inside a ZBrush, they act as masks with each other, right? So it's a lot easier to create like borders and things like that when we have something to actually like work against, pretty much like a surface underneath. What an awesome dungeon you built. Thank you. Thank you. I want to do the exact same thing. There's a room outside of this little office that I have right here. And that's going to be like my man cave. So I want to build and do this exact same thing, like wood and foam board. I show you how I did that on the last live stream. But it's going to take me a while to do that. My favorite character is this one. Like the Mighty Thor is is my favorite character. The second best favorite character is Thor, like the original Thor, Odin's son. And then my third favorite character is Black Bolt, which was on the bolding list as well. It's a very he's a more sort of like niche character, like not a lot of people know about. Blackagar Boltagon, who's the king of the Inhumans. Unfortunately, the Inhumans have a little bit of a bad rep, but they're pretty cool. I really like the royal family. Medusa and Black Bolt, Gorgon, Karnak. Karnak's another like very cool one, very cool character. I have not finished seeing Arcane Season 2. I've already spoiled myself because there's, you know, a lot of memes and things like that, and a lot of like shorts with like the songs and the ending and stuff like that, but I have not finished seeing it. It's definitely on my to-do list. Order Unit, what's up, man? I recently played against you, right? On chess? On chess.com. Nice game. Yeah, Black Bolt's death was very intense. It's a shame because he's really powerful. Like in canon, he's really powerful. Like people do not mess with Black Bolt. There's a secret group in comics. They're called the Illuminati. Oh, actually, they showed that in Multiverse of Madness, but they're different members. So the Illuminati in the comics, it's Black Panther, Black Bolt, Doctor Strange, Captain America, Iron Man, and Reed Richards. Those are the Illuminati on the original comic books. Okay, let's work on the face because it's driving me nuts. Now, what we can do here again to optimize things a little bit is we can actually cut the face from the rest of the elements. I'm just gonna go like enough to the lower section so that I don't miss anything. Very common in video games that that elements are not all parts of the same part or the same element, and that way we can increase the resolution of the Dynamesh without affecting other parts. Dynamesh, there we go. So for the mouth, I always start with the barrel of the mouth. Just the general volume. Let's isolate it a little bit. Draw the line there. Push this in. And then build the lower lip. And build the upper lip. All of this, it's tricky. Like I cannot explain exactly all of the things that I'm thinking about right now when I'm sculpting this. But the more you do this, the easier all of this process becomes, because you get used to the specific forms that you know that you need for those specific areas. It's very important that the mouth also has a curvature to it. And as you can see, that starts looking a lot cleaner, right? Compared to what we had. Looks way better. Now, even though we barely see the nose, I would still suggest adding at least a little bit of the basic things here, like the nostrils, because eventually we might see, again, from a silhouette perspective, we might see a little bit of the silhouette. And once again, this is just the blocking, just the basic construction here. Yeah, mouth is a tricky area. And one thing about the mouth is you do need quite a bit of geometry. Like right now, this blocking still looks a little bit crappy because we need more volume or more polygons, a little bit more resolution, so that I can really start polishing all of the important forms. Face in general are tricky. Let's see. In plugin, you look for transpose master and select transpose masters. Yeah, transpose master is a really good tool. I want an opinion on my animation. Where can I send it to you? You can send the stuff for portfolio review on the Discord channel, my friend. However, the submissions are not open yet. We're gonna be opening them probably next week. So you gotta join the Discord channel, and you gotta stay vigilant so that you find so that you know when it releases. Because we don't do any announcement or anything. We just open it. That way we get a fair chance to everyone. There we go. Let me take a look at this one. There we go. You can see that the mouth, they do make it quite small, right? Kind of like if she's about to give a kiss or something. So it's not as elongated. But again, we need to match the concept. Another thing with female characters especially is that makeup does play an important role. So things will look a little bit better once we apply like lipstick and shadows and things like that to other parts of the character. But you gotta be able to sort of like see through that pretty much. Like ignore the fact that we're missing all of that information and just focus on the forms of the character. And if you can do that, that also allows for a nicer construction of the forms. Now the good thing is I only need to worry about the lower side of the face, because she's never gonna be taking her mask out. At least not in this version that I'm doing. Which is another thing. A lot of people sometimes get too worried about things that you're never gonna see. And in production, you always focus on what you will see first. If we get time, or if there's like, I don't know, if our art director says, hey, there's gonna be a skin where the character is going to, like, we're gonna be able to see the inside of the face, or she's gonna be without the helmet. Well, in that case, yeah, you gotta focus on doing that. But especially with this one, since it's a personal project and we don't have any other direction, I'm just gonna focus on making sure that it looks super good on the original face. Isaac, yes, Isaac, we do. We'll link the link in just a second. David will share the Discord channel with you on YouTube. Do we fill the hole in the eye inside of the sleeves? If yes, isn't it excess geometry for UVs and all? Again, it depends on the projects. Some projects will fill that stuff. And yes, it's an excess. You can always make the island a little bit smaller on the UVs and pack it with the island being like very small so that you save that space. But it depends on the project. Some projects will be like, no, we don't want that. So make sure to delete any faces that we're not going to be using. It depends on the project. But if they're not going to be seen, I would encourage you to make the what's the word? The islands on the UV sets small so that you don't texture something that's never going to be seen, right? Have you ever done or thought of doing a superhero competition or original superhero competition? We did, man. We did a competition on October. It was not a superhero competition. It was a what's the word? It was the Creatures Unleashed competition, where we did like creatures for like Halloween and stuff like that. And before that, we did another one, which was like 2 years ago almost. We did the Weapons of Legend competition, and we're gonna have more competitions this year as well. So stay tuned for that too. Okay, not bad, not bad. I like it. Oh. There we go. Oh, we haven't saved. We haven't saved, guys. That was close. That was close because we haven't saved in like 2 hours already. Wow. That would have been a disaster. A complete disaster. Okay. So there we go. We got, I think, all of the what's the word? We got all of the basic things done. Like this is the general silhouette. Let's call it the classic silhouette of Jane Foster. We're still missing the cape. I do have a cape here that I did for another character. Let me bring it in. The Penth Sphere. Import. Where is it? Cape. It might be either too small or too big. That's too small. Okay. There we go. Let's go to visibility, double, or sorry, where is it? Display properties, double as the cape. Yeah, let's make it a nice red color, fill object. There we go. So, I mean, this is just, again, it's just a placeholder, and it's just there to give us an idea of how it would look, right? Eventually, it would be bigger or smaller or whatever. But this pretty much, I would say, gets us to the point where we have a basic, again, design or a basic sort of like description of the character herself, right? We have all of the important things: the bracer, the boots, the bandages, the skirt, the torso, the breastplate, the hammer, everything. So this is where the interesting what's the word? This is where the interesting part starts happening, because now we need to go back to our reference board here and start looking at what they're doing on their characters to make them more interesting, right? So for instance, Black Widow here, you can see that on her breastplate and her armor, there's a lot of like seam lines and tactical elements and like trims and things like that. So I'm going to start going now into this like sketching stage where I'm going to try to find interesting shapes for the character, because otherwise she just looks way, way too plain, right? So let's focus, for instance, on the pants. So instead of having this just like very simple pants right here, I'm going to go with Damien Standard, and I'm going to start sketching. Let's increase the resolution a little bit. And I'm going to start sketching just patterns that sort of like follow the shape of the body. This is very important. We always want to follow the shape of the body and make it look a little bit more interesting, right? So for instance, here we have a muscle that's called the sartorius muscle, and we can follow that muscle along and create this line right here. Now, not only do we need to follow the body, we also need to start thinking about what's the graphic design shapes that we have on the character. And in this case, since we're talking about like Nordic stuff and Nordic elements, it might be a good idea to look for Thor in Marvel Rivals, right? Thor Marvel Rivals, and see the kind of like patterns and shapes that he has on his design. So I can see like this, like very squarish designs, right? Like lines and like faceted, like bevelly edges. So I feel like that's what we're going to be doing or going for. So we're going to have something like this, and then like a line that breaks things up a little bit in a more of a like interesting shape, right? So we go straight and then like a bevel right there. And then we have like the knee element right here, which could also be something like that. And then we follow the shape of the bone. And again, we can add like a little bevel right there. And that makes the whole thing looks more interesting, because we don't really need to do anything like fancy, but just adding those little trims makes the whole design a little bit more angular and a little bit closer to the rival style that we're looking for, right? Now we're gonna have to decide whether those things are gonna actually push the surface out or if there's just gonna be texture details. But that's the kind of like thing that we're looking for. Alan Castillo says, I'm having PTSD from the anatomy course because I just learned about legs. Yeah, legs are actually relatively easy, I would say. Yeah, they do have a lot of like geometric sharp shapes. They have a lot of silhouette changes as well. Now, it's very important that we never neglect the back parts as well. So, for instance, here, I'm going to add another line. Again, sort of like geometric line that follows some of these muscles on the back. And then maybe goes towards the center right there. And right now, it's just a sketch, right? It's just like an idea. They do this quite a bit with like leggings and stuff, right? Where they add like special patterns to them. Let's turn off the cape for just 1 second. Is that the cape? No, this one. And that's the thing. Like, I just want to see something. When I see the character, I just want to see something almost everywhere. Again, not everywhere, but almost everywhere. So that whenever I look at different angles of the character, there's always something interesting to have a look at. Do I ever sculpt in pose? Not really. Only when the character that I'm doing is going to be for like 3D print, like what we did with Duncan. This is the cool thing now. I can show you Duncan quickly enough. So I definitely need to glue this guy. I'm going to get a freaking accent one day. It's gonna break and explode everywhere. Here. So for Duncan here, this is the one from the anatomy course. We did sculpt in pose. So, well, no, we sculpted in A pose first. We started with the basic like proportion of the character first, and then we posed the character. And after we pose a character, there's things that you need to fix. For instance, the shoulder here you need to fix. The latissimus dorsi here you need to fix. A little bit of the like elements on the character you need to fix. So all of these things right here, like all of the pose that we had for this character, you had to fix in pose. but it was because this particular project was for this, for 3D print. We were not going to be doing like the full like character pipeline. So it really depends on the project, okay? There we go. It really depends on the project, on whether or not we're going to be sculpting in post. Let's see. Do you print with resin? Yes, I print with resin, Georgie, and I also print with filament. I have both printers. You're welcome, Kank Meow. You are welcome. That's a great name, Kank Meow. Okay, let's go to this skirt right here. Again, I'm going to Dynamesh. And in this skirt in particular, I know that we're going to have like the trims. Like that's a very sort of like obvious thing. On the comic, there's not anything in particular that that she has on that skirt. There's like a pattern or something. There's just like the basic trim, but what I think could be very, very interesting here is like a pattern like Yggdrasil, you know, like a tree. So we can have like interesting lines and patterns here. But maybe, now that I think of it, maybe if we go again like the Marvel Rivals route, we can do like a pattern that's made out of like this very angular shapes. I think this looks a little bit more appropriate. So something like this, then like this, and then like this. There we go. So again, it sort of like follows. It's always very important that we try to follow the shape language of what we're doing. How do you work with real-time eyelashes? When I add them to my hair cards, they look low res. See, eyelashes are one of those things that you could have just like very small tubes, like 4-phase tubes or something like that, and they usually work fine. So the actual geometry, the actual sort of like round geometry for the eyelashes, because there's not too many of them. Like you can have maybe what, 200 eyelashes, and each of those eyelashes is going to be like 16 squares or 16 polygons. So it's going to be maybe 1,000 polygons just from that, which would be pretty much the same from hair cards. So I like to do eyelashes with actual geometry. So I model the eyelashes. Should we add the stitches and all that little detail even if the concept doesn't have it? Yes. Well, again, it depends on the project, but usually all of those details can be very, very helpful. Now, this breastplate is the one that I'm a little bit worried about. Well, not worried, but I'm not exactly sure how or what to do with it. But I guess we can follow, like, Storm's design, where she also has, like, cuts and stuff. So, let's see. So, usually, this sort of, like, breast window, we can cut it around. And I really like how it like frames this sometimes. What do you guys think? Should we add that kind of like patterns to this thing as well? And we always want to try to follow the shape of the muscles that we have in here. Yeah, I feel like it works. Okay, we're gonna have like a border there. And like maybe like a little trim. Definitely makes it look a little bit more futuristic. But yeah, I think it works. Yeah, right? Something like this. Yeah, we don't want to do it in a way that we don't want to overwork the design, right? Like we don't want to do too much. Like we gotta learn, and that's the tricky part. I'm not a designer myself. I know a little bit about design, but I normally don't do all of the design. So we gotta learn how to find like that balance. Because then this thing is gonna be here, and I would expect to see again a little bit more cuts, but not too many. A good rule of thumb about design is you want to have what we call rest areas. We've mentioned this before, which is areas where there's not a lot of stuff going on. And then you have all of those like busy areas. Hey, Brain Aneurysm, what's up, man? ¿Cómo andas? Thanks for the follow. Have I rigged it? What, this one or Duncan? You mean Duncan? Yes, we did use a little bit of a trick there with AccuRig to get the post a little bit easier, and then we continue sculpting. I just finished my Wolverine, and the only problem I still can solve is posing. Even through the proxy of the pose and C-sphere, the model breaks the topology. But I do... Yeah, the topology will break, Kix, yeah. Especially if you don't have, like, proper deformation topology, you will have to resculpt or redo a lot of stuff. That's why a lot of people, when they're doing, like things for Instagram and things like that, if they're gonna 3D print it, they just straight go into the pose. Because that way you don't have to do, like, double the work or anything. Hiena98. Hey, thanks, man. Thank you. I appreciate the support. How are we doing on time? Look at that. 2 hours just flew by. Wow. I really got into it this time. Tenshi Budo says, hey, Ave, happy Friday. Would you recommend adding form and clay, carving it back, and smoothing it afterwards is the best approach to modeling the character? More like a traditional sculpture would? Or do you think it would be faster and easier to block in the character forms and landmarks using primitive shapes first? I like using the second one. I mean, it depends. Because, for instance, with this one, you can, if you go back to the stream, man, you can see that we started with the base mesh, with the female base mesh, and then just started adding all of the forms and stuff. And now, and you can see it here. Let me, well, let me save first. Save as. Save. Yes. So let's go Lightbox, Tools. So, oh, it was not that one. It was this one. It was that one. The female CPR. The problem is if I open it right now, it's going to close this project. But you can see that the difference that we had from the original mesh to what we have right now, it's like quite intense. Like it's very, very different. And this is just like the blocking stage of the whole thing. So we're still like hours and hours away from having a final result, but we started with the primitive, and a lot of the like the props that I've been sculpting with this character started with just like a basic sphere or like a basic cube or like an extraction from that initial like topology. What the hell is that? Oh, that's the cut. Okay, so I need to dynamesh this again, push this in, and then that one, push it in. There we go. Empress Tiramisu says, I know this isn't perfect, but you got so much done. Yeah, and this is, again, this is just like the blocking process of the character. Now, Mighty Thor is definitely a little bit bulkier, so I'm definitely thinking about beefing her up a little bit more than the Invisible Woman that we're using as a reference. She's a little bit stronger, so I'm probably gonna be going here to the main muscles, especially on the arms, just like buffing her a little bit here and there. I still want her to look like athletic and stuff, but one of the things that they can do, I can see I'm looking at Storm right now, and she does have like a very thin like wrist, so I'm gonna make the wrist a little bit stronger here. How you, yeah, Saren Kong, I mentioned that I just sculpted the lashes by themselves, so you can use planes. They're not gonna look as great, but they work. Or you can just like sculpt like tiny little cylinders with like a tapered end, of course, and use them as the eyelash. So both of those options work. Okay, so here we're gonna have the dress. Just gonna leave a little bit of tension right there on the garment, right? Because there's like a, I think it's like a, I'm not sure if it's like a lock or like a little circle or something. Let me check real quick. Just like a little band there, apparently. Like a little clip. Let's append. Oh, I missed another question. Someone mentioned the XP22. I was asking about what tablet I'm using. I'm using the Canvas 22. Huion Canvas 22. Why don't I extract what? The little like clip? Nah. Or you mean the cloth? Yeah, the cloth could be a good option to extract. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. We really don't need to extract it. Later on, if we need to extract it, we'll extract it. But for now, we're going to keep it simple. In these initial stages, it's better to work fast than to overcomplicate stuff. There we go. Okay, let's see. I'm wondering if we should add something. Oh, we're missing another like shape. That's another like square shape that she has on her torso. Let's rotate this 45-degree angles. There we go. Oh, move this to the top. Van, what's up, man? Welcome to YouTube. What the hell? There we go. I feel the breastplate is looking similar to the door armor you did. Yeah, definitely. I mean, door, dwarfs, Nordic culture and runes, all that kind of stuff. It's very... They have the same sort of like roots, I would say. It's kind of expected that they're going to look a little bit similar. There we go. So that piece right there, it's a simple piece, but can definitely give us a different effect. And again, most of these pieces I'm just going to remodel later on. These are just placeholders or blockings. I know they look a little bit more refined than the traditional blocking, but a lot of this stuff, it's easier to just like redo later on in like Maya, for instance. For instance, this thing has like some sort of like logo there. This is just to get an idea of how things are. It's been only 2 hours, but we already created the major blockouts. This is amazing. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's and this is why art takes so much time, right? Because you really need to focus. This is a character. I'm not sure how long it takes for them to do a character, but if I had to guess, the sculpting stage would be probably about 2 weeks, maybe. It depends on the studio, but maybe 2 weeks. Alan, thank you, my friend. You gotta go. Thank you for an incredible stream. Have an amazing weekend. You too, my friend. You too. No. I literally mean remodel, Max Swag. So, for instance, this piece right here, right? That piece, it's way easier if I just go to Maya and literally just create a new cube and do the exact same thing I did, right? But I remodel it in such a way that I get cleaner edges. So if I grab all of those edges right there and I bevel them, check the fraction, and then grab this one, let's say not an offset, push it in, you know, like if I just remodel that whole thing and then I just export this back and replace this piece that I have right here with a remodel piece. Okay, so yeah, not every, like some pieces I will retopo, and that's what I consider like a remodel because I'm retopoing them, and some other pieces it's literally redoing them, like doing them once again. This is again just a blockout that I would present to a client or to the art director and be like, hey, this is what I came up with, what do you think? And they would be like, oh, I like it, but for instance, what if we go to the bracer here and we make the silhouette a little bit more interesting? It's like, oh yeah, let's for instance push this thing up so that we get more of a like a scale, like armor pattern or something, right? So this is just the, again, like the initial blocking or the initial idea that you give people so that you explain how the whole concept is going to look. I prefer Maya, to be honest. I don't have anything against the C modeler, but I'm just faster with Maya. I know there's some people that are really, really good with freaking C modeler. And some stuff, if it's an easy stuff, I will probably do it here instead of ZBrush. But for more advanced things, yeah, definitely Maya. When is it better to pose? After blocking or after detailing? That's a great question. In Duncan's case, for example, we did that after modeling. Here, let me show you. I have it here. Projects 2023. No, 2024. Anatomy. Where is it? Project files. Duncan. So Duncan stopped here. So this is the sort of like final like T-pose version of Duncan. And I stopped it here because once I get to this point, I can go through the other like process, right? I can go through retopo, UVs, texturing, all that stuff, which is what I eventually want to do. I want to take this guy through the full sort of like production pipeline to have like a game ready model. Right now, this is just the high poly sculpt of the anatomy study that we did along the whole course. And after we did this, then we started with the pose. Like this is where we started working on the pose, and we will change a lot of things here. Right? Until we get to this right here. So I personally post them after I got to this point, which as you can see already has a lot of the details. Not all of the details. For instance, you can see the suit. It's missing like the micro details of like those little dots right there, because it's better to add those kind of stuff after the very end. But there's a lot of wrinkles that you're gonna have to redo. There's a lot of like segments or like distortions and things that you're gonna have to change, and that happens after you get to like a nice point like this one. Because at this point, once the pose starts like happening, the shape of the muscles is going to change. So the longer you can keep sort of like symmetry and the A pose ready, the easier it's going to be for you in the long run as well. You save more time that way, pretty much. Fingers, no, I don't want to do fingers right now, Solid, because if I ever do like series measure, it's gonna be easier to just like inflate the fingers a little bit. Like here, I can just add a little bit of inflate so that the fingers are not completely thin. And once we do like a series mesh, they're gonna just look like cylinders, and they're gonna be easier to sculpt that way. Can you bake with ZBrush? Yeah, you can bake with ZBrush. It's right here. It's C plugin. And then it's this one called Multi-Map Exporter. There we go. And then export options. And here you have displacement, vector, normal, ambient occlusion, cavity, and you can export the mesh. So you can bake all of these maps. Displacement, vector displacement, normal, texture from polypaint, ambient occlusion, cavity, and export mesh maps. So it is possible to do bakes. I don't like doing bakes. The only bakes I normally do instead of ZBrush are what's the word? Oh, wait a second. I messed up here. The only bakes I do outside of ZBrush are displacement maps. If I'm doing displacement maps, I will do those bakes. I forgot to turn on symmetry here for the shoulders. Let's see. I'm getting an error in Substance Painter that high poly scene was required when baking normal map from mesh, but could not be loaded, even if I have imported high poly mesh and did rename correctly. Make sure that your high poly and your low poly do not have any sort of like issues like n-gons or non-manifold geometry, edges with zero length, like anything that breaks the topology when Substance tries to load it might break your project there as well. So you might want to just like do a double check on your geometries to make sure that they're as clean as possible. For a game character that you want to pose for presentation, would you rig the final model and pose it, or pose the high res and do the retopo according to the pose? I would rig the final model and pose it. Like it makes no sense to retopo a pose character. That's not how it works. Are you gonna do retopology for this on Maya? Not sure. Not sure, because I have Topogun, and Topogun is better. But the same things that I'm gonna do for retopology, you can do in Maya. Okay, here I kind of like another plane. So I kind of like this section right here as a separate plane. And now I think we need to work a little bit on the wings, because the wings right now, they look very ugly. See, the wings, for instance, and since they're a little bit more so like geometry, a little bit trickier in geometry, this is one of those things that I might do instead of Maya. But let's try doing something here. So the first thing I can see is that we need to push this, guys. Make them a little bit point here. And then we need to have like a very clean curve right here. There's like a circle. Oh, let's dynamesh this first. There we go. I understand correctly that we don't really need retopology for a 3D print. Yes, exactly. That's right. If you're gonna 3D print, you don't even need to do retopology. That's correct. So we have the circle right here. And then we have the wings. Very soft curves here that we need to So like emphasize a little bit more. And this is one of the things that I would, again, do inside of Maya. So I'll do this just very basic blocking and sketch here inside of ZBrush. And then I'll take this into Maya. And I'll sort of like explode this element so that I can get a little bit of a nicer silhouette. Because, for instance, this silhouette right here is very boring. But if I start cutting in to generate like a little bit of a step, that, as you can see, looks more interesting, right? Is it 3 wings? Kind of looks like just 3 wings. So that tells me that I can actually delete this part right here. And just... That's also nice because we're going to be able to see a little bit of the jawline. Santana, what's up, my friend? Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Hey, you mentioned before that you once had a terrible instructor in Noman. What do you think makes a good instructor teacher from a bad one in our industry? Ooh, that's a great question. Great question. So a good instructor is one that, first of all, knows his stuff, right? He knows, he has a good portfolio and he shows that he understands like the things that he's teaching. Otherwise, well, what are you doing there? The second thing is that he can communicate the reasoning behind why he does things. That was one of the things that that particular instructor was super bad at, because he would tell us, hey, you need to do this and this and that. And we would explain, or we would ask, why? Like, what's the reasoning behind that particular choice? He's like, I don't know, that's just how you do it. You use this tool, you use this other tool, and then you get this result right here. And we're like, okay, cool, yeah, we understand that we can get the result, but we would like to understand the fundamentals of art that you're using to get to that conclusion, or the artistic decision that you're thinking about when planning that particular thing, right? So it's very important that they can sort of like sustain the answers or the reasoning on why they're doing what they're doing. The second thing that's important about an instructor is that they can understand how you learn, right? Because we all learn in different ways. And if you have multiple students, not every single student will be learning in the exact same like way. So you need to be able to adapt your teaching style and adapt your explanations, adapt your examples or your exercises to be able to explain specific topics. And last but not least, there needs to be some sort of like methodology to how or why they teach the things that they teach, right? Because it's not the same thing to be a teacher that goes into the classroom and says, okay, open your books in chapter 1, read all of that, and then explain to me what you learned. That's not teaching. That's just like, I don't know, babysitting or whatever, because they're not really showing you anything. Methodologies is what kind of examples are they using, what kind of exercises are they giving, what are the steps that they're like following to teach you one particular like skill. The way I like to teach, and if you've taken any of my courses, you know that that's my, again, like my style, is that I like to work with exercises and with steps to show you the basis of the element, and then we apply that to more advanced techniques. For instance, on the Oni course, we start with a dragon skull, and we start with like a little environment or something, and once we understand those like principles of how the software works, then we jump onto the Oni. And even the Oni, we're constantly like playing around with the different tools and with the different like settings inside of the software, so that you understand how it works. But again, it's not just understanding how it works, it's understanding how it works and applying it to something that's functional and that's getting us closer to what we want to do as artists. That's the secret to a great teacher, I would say. A great teacher is also someone that really challenges you, like that knows how to push you in a way that makes it challenging for you to learn something, but at the same time, it's sort of like a safety net that you know that you can rely on to really get to the goal that you want to achieve, right? That's why my courses, they're not easy. Like well, actually, that's a weird way to phrase it. It's not that they're not easy. It's that they're not just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna show you how to do a very simple thing, and there you go, you are now a ZBrush artist. No, I really challenge you with content and with exercises and with works that are like challenging and that you might encounter in your day-to-day professional life, but you need to put in the work. Oh, nice. Thank you, Art. Yeah, that's an older version of the Marvelous course. I did a new one where we do a Plague Doctor. That one's on my site now, in case you want to check it. But yeah, exactly. Like, I try to always include exercises and sort of like build up the skills so that you feel comfortable with the whole process. Because otherwise, it's very difficult to learn and really understand and really get an idea of how things work. If I don't make UV maps, can I paint like with a brush on Marmoset? Not on Marmoset, but yes on ZBrush. So if you're on ZBrush, you can use polypaint, which is a different kind of like painting, which is what I'm doing right now with this character, right? So you can use some things like that, but no, not on Marmoset or Substance. Hi, Ave. You just mentioned Topogun. I hadn't used Topogun before, but I'm a huge Marmoset Toolbag fan. I just saw that Topo had a baker and the license is perpetual. What do you prefer, Topogun or Marmoset for the baking? I'm an environment artist, but I'm learning a lot of different techniques like organic modeling. No, definitely Marmoset. Topogun has a baker, yes, and it's a good baker, yes, but it's not as complete as the bakers inside of Marmoset or Substance. So yeah, definitely Marmoset or Substance for baking. On the Topogun, like course, we do cover a little bit of the baker, but again, I definitely prefer the bakers from Marmoset or Substance. I'm packing UVs in Blender using the UV Pack Master and UV Toolkit add-ons. Is it worth learning other software for UV work? I often hear that, yeah, Rism is really nice, really freaking nice. I recently got it. Normally, I do all my stuff inside of Maya, but Rism does have some like nice unpacking and layout like options that make it really valuable. It's a sort of like a very particular tool. You don't necessarily need it, but if you can afford it, it's gonna make your stuff like a little bit better. So it's like let's say like a 5%, 10% increase on quality. So it's good. Yeah, exactly, Anthony. Exactly. That's what I mean. Okay. I'm trying to think if we need to add anything else. I'm not sure. Let me see some more reference here. See if we're missing anything. Anything important, at least. Oh, we're missing some belts from the bracer, it seems. Ah, interesting. So this bracer right here is actually a half bracer, not a full bracer. So let me show you how I would address that. I would hide half of it like that. Delete Hidden Dynamesh so that we just fill that in. And then either with a cylinder or another extraction, we can do it. Or, let's just do a cylinder. So a panth, cylinder. And this is good because it also will allow us to generate a little bit more of a break in silhouette here for this blocking. There we go. So it's going to be like that. Right there. Right there. There we go. Maybe a little bit thicker. Again, following the Marble Rivals design language. There we go. And we just duplicate this a couple of times. So as you can see, this new belt that I just added, or this new like loops that I just added there, they will change the silhouette quite nicely. It's extra work on retopology and things like that, but it does make for an interesting effect there. And I think I'm gonna fill them with like a leather color. And then this one was like a should be like a gray color fill object. There we go. Let's see. Hello, everyone. I'm working on my portfolio. Is it possible to have any feedbacks? I'm looking to improve my renders. Yes, Abman, you can send your portfolio review on the Discord. Make sure to join the Discord, and you're going to be able to send that next week when we open submissions. This is a nice block out. How far are you planning to develop it? I want to do the full character. I was mentioning that this is going to be my personal project for at least the first couple of months this year, and I want to be able to, to get it to a nice place. It's going to take a while. I might not record the whole process here on live streams, but we're definitely going to be doing a couple of them. So for this first live stream, the goal was to get to a nice like block out stage, which I think we definitely were able to get. I think we definitely got it there. Let's see. Yes, Dr. Mo, it's compatible with the newest version. I think... Oh, man, because I did it last year, like early last year, for the Marvelous course. So it's... I don't remember what version it was, but yeah, it's totally compatible. Like, because again, I don't focus specifically on the tools. I, of course, teach the tools, but they focus on the fundamentals and the way of how you should think when you're approaching a project that requires a lot of cloth. So it's a little bit of a different approach. Okay, guys, so I think this is it for today, but I still want to take a couple of minutes to take any questions that you might have, because at this point, the next stage is just start polishing, and it's definitely going to take a little bit longer to get through that whole process. I will cover a little bit. Let's do that next week as well on the live stream. We already have a cool topic for next video, which is going to be bakes inside of marmoset. So yeah, I think this is not bad for this first approach. Let me show you just so that you can see how much we did today. So there we go. So this right here was the model that we started with. And let me load in the model that we ended up with. So in just a couple of hours, 2.5 hours roughly, as you can see, we were able to turn this model right here into this base mesh right here, which our goal, as you guys remember, was to use, in this case, the Invisible Woman as a sort of benchmark, right? So if we place them side by side, they should look like they're part of the same game. I still see a couple of things that I want to change. For instance, the face definitely feels a little bit thick, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. The body looks fine. I think the proportions are okay. Maybe the arms can be a little bit bigger or a little bit shorter on this side right here. Legs look fine. So yeah, this is again where we start, or we go into the... let's say the comparison stage, and we start looking at the original source material, and we see what things we can do on our own material to make it look a little bit closer. Here, let's try to match the exact same size. There we go. That's probably as close as we can get. But yeah, this is the comparison stage where we need to really take a look. Now, this one, as I mentioned, is definitely going to be a little bit bulkier than the Invisible Woman. So yeah, I would say, again, for a blockout stage, we advanced pretty nicely. Thank you, Wolf Girl, for the bits. Thank you once again for being part of this amazing community. Let's see. When I create a mesh on Maya and then pass it to ZBrush, the software asks me to do a kind of retopology. How can I improve it? Okay, that means, Isaac, if you do that, that means that your polygon meshes in Maya were not great. Like you had some n-gons, or there was a mistake on the elements. Because normally, if you bring a mesh like I did with the hammer right here, and all of the topology is proper topology, you should not have any sort of warning telling you that that something is wrong. Okay. White minus, the environment game is going to be, or the environment is going to be for games. We're going to be doing that for games, okay? So, yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Now, remember that if you want to get the latest news, if you want to make sure that you get all of the information, maybe if we have a poll later on about another, specific project here for the live streams, the best way to be aware of this is by being in our Discord. So make sure to join the Discord. It's going to be here in the description on the video as well. And I'll see you very soon so that you can continue learning about 3D. If there's any topics or any questions you have, make sure to join the Discord and throw those questions to me right there. And I really wish you guys have a great weekend, okay? Thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you back very soon. Don't forget, always learning, always improving. Bye-bye.